So people have a lot of questions. What really happened with Snow White?
The moment word got out that Disney's Snow White reboot might be pulled from theaters, people couldn't believe it was real.
After a long wait, Disney's new Snow White finally came out last week, and to put it mildly, my friends, this has been a colossal mess.
Countless fans and skeptics rushed online, searching for any trace of official statements. Then Brett Cooper waltzed into the conversation, mocking Rachel Zegler's every move and turning what was already a heated debate into a full-blown online spectacle.
Has been absolutely horrifying. Like, I literally found myself feeling bad for them at times, that just shows you how terrible this has been. It is financially crumbling, financially failing. The reviews are genuinely horrible.
Allegedly, the film's first week box office results were so awful, theaters decided there was no point in keeping it on their screens. A Disney picture
and new controversies surrounding the production, surrounding the actresses in the film are literally popping up every single day. They cannot outrun the curse.
Yanked. Gone. Canceled in record time. That's the brutal reality for Disney's latest so-called masterpiece, Snow White. But this isn't just about a box office flop. No, this is about Rachel Zegler, the face of the whole catastrophe, who found herself in the center of a firestorm she clearly never saw coming. What started as a modern reimagining turned into a complete Hollywood disaster, and Ziggler, who once stood tall as the star meant to lead this fairy tale reboot into a new era, suddenly became the villain in her own story.
Is there one reason why this actually flopped? Was it because of politics and wokeness? Was this another woke flop, or was it simply just a terrible film that nobody wanted from the beginning?
Desperate damage control was underway. The embarrassment, humiliating, the number of unsold tickets, downright shameful. Internet voices didn't hold back. They roasted Disney, claiming they bit off way more than they could chew. But the biggest question floating in the air was,
unfortunately, the only thing I can really say is that is not my story to tell.
Did Rachel Zegler's own words destroy the movie? Like, actually sabotage it so badly that the film self-destructed on day one? Sounds dramatic? Maybe, but that's exactly what people are accusing her of. And what's even more shocking is what happened next.
If you are somebody who, has a lot of publicity around you and your name is attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case, unless you are, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively with all of their films, apparently.
The spotlight, the hope, the big screen glory, it was all supposed to be Rachel's moment. She had the look, she had the voice, she had that spark. Everything screamed modern princess, until it didn't, because then the chatter began.
You don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
First, she made waves by calling the original Snow White outdated. That alone sparked a wildfire. Fans erupted. How dare she call a beloved classic irrelevant?
Kind of seems like maybe this path that I'm taking right now is the path that Rachel Zegler should have taken instead of just running her mouth for the last 3 years, which we are going to get into now.
Suddenly, Zegler wasn't the Disney darling anymore. Critics slammed her for disrespecting Disney's legacy. Whispers began swirling behind closed doors, ugly whispers.
This has been going on since 2022, since September of 2022. That is when this all first exploded.
Some claimed she was manipulating interviews, selling herself as a warrior for modern values while quietly stepping on the very fan base that made her famous. Her supporters said she was just outspoken.
Rachel Zegler, her comments first exploded on the scene about Snow White back at the Disney D23 Expo. The clips went viral of her saying, Snow White doesn't need a man, she's not gonna fall for the prince.
But her critics? Oh, they weren't having it. No one asked you to fix a fairy tale, they snapped. Forums lit up, distrust soared, and Rachel, she just kept going.
I've forgotten those clips. This is what I'm referring to.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
And then, right on cue, Brett Cooper entered the chat. With the fury of someone who'd been waiting for this moment, Cooper pounced. She had receipts, reactions, and an unfiltered I told you so energy that hit like a truck.
Maybe I could be president one day. I hate men. I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my God, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
She replayed Zegler's interviews where she called the original story cringe and archaic and then laughed them off. Cooper slammed it all as arrogant trash talk, and as rumors spread that the movie had bombed, Brett Cooper was living for it.
Yeah, the entire film's about a love story. That's what the point of the film is, and I'm sorry that chivalry in a man pursuing you is now deemed as stalking.
She didn't just comment, she went in, posting a savage video reaction, rolling her eyes at Rachel's empowering takes and dragging every quote.
There is just so much to unpack here. Like, the most iconic Disney role ever. I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production, for what it meant.
She even called the entire Snow White remake the perfect example of taste your own medicine. According to Brett, Rachel turned on the classic and the fans turned on her. The internet ate it upper. People rallied around Brett's brutal honesty. Finally, someone said it.
She is not Caucasian. She is a Latina. She is half Colombian. And so people were like, why were you cast in the first place? We just had a black Little Mermaid. Now we're having a Latina Snow White, and she is literally called Snow White. This doesn't make sense. So that was happening.
But oh, it didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, the whispers got louder. Rumors of Rachel Zegler losing it behind closed doors started flooding gossip blogs.
Again, Rachel didn't even seem like she cared or liked the source material. I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think Disney wanted.
Allegedly, she completely flipped when she heard about the catastrophic ticket sales, screaming phone calls to Disney executives, furious demands to know who greenlit the marketing plan. Some even claimed she blamed her co-stars for stealing the spotlight. Voicemails leaked, her voice shaking with rage, ranting about incompetent people, ruining her chance at stardom. It was full-on meltdown mode. Production staff dreading every phone notification. What angry message would come next from Team Zegler? People online painted her as someone who just couldn't take accountability. It's always someone else's fault, they said. Zegler's team, of course, denied everything. But this was just the beginning, because now Disney had to clean up the mess, and fast. When box office numbers started trickling in, numbers so horrifically low they made headlines, Disney allegedly went into full-blown panic. Executives reportedly gathered behind closed doors in a high-stress emergency meeting. Grim spreadsheets, sweaty brows, an atmosphere of corporate doom, and in that desperate moment, they allegedly made a shocking call. Yank the movie from theaters. Pull it before the headlines made it even worse. Was it a ban? Was it a PR move? Disney never said. But the movie vanished faster than you could say once upon a time. And that silence, that vague, mysterious disappearance, oh, it only fueled the drama. Critics slammed Disney for trying to sweep the whole disaster under the rug, accused them of staging a strategic cover-up. One alleged insider claimed, "They're trying to bury this so fast you'll think you hallucinated the whole thing." No clear explanation, no real answers, just a sudden vanishing act, but guess who had something to say? Brett Cooper, and she didn't hold back. She dragged Disney for allegedly folding to a delusional lead actress and declared it a total surrender to Rachel's ego. Whether people agreed or not, Cooper's commentary lit a wildfire. The collapse of Snow White turned into a full-blown media circus, and it didn't stop there. Social media exploded. The hashtags? Brutal. Snow White disaster. Zegler meltdown. Some said Rachel was just trying to bring a new perspective to the fairy tale. Others claimed she torched a legacy for clout. And Brett Cooper's supporters? They called it karma in real time. That's what happens when you spit on a legacy, one post read. Still, not everyone was laughing. Some fans said Cooper's mockery crossed the line, that it was cruel, even mean-spirited. But this is 2025, where every disagreement becomes a war zone. And now, everyone's asking, was the collapse a result of a poorly made movie? Or was it all about her? Behind the scenes, people started talking. People who claimed to know the real Rachel Zegler, the one behind the Hollywood smile. Some said she was obsessed with controlling the narrative, that she rewrote scenes to serve her own image, that she subtly sabotaged co-stars who outshined her. And suddenly, it all started to make sense. Was this meltdown the product of a starlet in over her head, or a carefully disguised diva who finally faced a reality check? Meanwhile, Brett Cooper just kept doubling down, roasting Rachel Zegler to dust and painting her as the cautionary tale of Hollywood egos gone wild. And honestly, it worked, because every step of this Snow White disaster felt like a chapter in a modern-day tragedy. Everything that could go wrong with this remake did. Bad marketing, a star who mocked the very tale she was cast to represent. A public already drowning in franchise fatigue. From the very first trailer drop, fans weren't buying it. And once ticket sales hit the floor, the meltdown had no brakes. Then came the final blow. Whispers began swirling across social media. Snow White has been quietly pulled from theaters. No press release, no grand statement, just gone. What had started as Disney's next big fairy tale reboot ended in total silence. A vanishing act so abrupt, fans were left asking if the whole thing even happened. And for those watching closely, it was clear Disney didn't want this embarrassment anywhere near the spotlight. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper took a victory lap. She escalated her mockery, posting clips of Zegler's old interviews and reactions side by side with headlines about the movie's collapse. The contrast? Devastating. One moment, Zegler is bragging about changing the narrative, and the next, headlines are screaming, "Canceled!" Cooper tore into it like a wolf on fresh meat. "This is what happens," Cooper sneered, "when you trample a legacy." She wasn't just mocking Rachel Zegler, she was warning Hollywood, warning them that the audience has had enough of stars acting like they're too good for the stories that made them famous. And surprisingly, the public rallied behind her. Supporters flooded her comment sections, praising her bravery for speaking up. They said what many were thinking. Rachel Zegler didn't update Snow White. She burned it down. But while Brett was soaking up applause, Rachel, she was drowning in backlash. More anonymous leaks emerged. Text messages, voicemails, claims that Ziggler was blaming everyone around her, producers, castmates, even costume designers, for how things turned out. She was reportedly furious that anyone besides her got media attention during the press tour. Some claimed she accused her own co-stars of stealing her shine. One particularly harsh leak even described Zegler's behavior as manipulative behind the scenes, charming in public. And just like that, her fairy tale persona began to crack. Even longtime fans began questioning what was real. Was Rachel always this obsessed with control? Was the whole modern princess angle just a way to mask deeper insecurities? And in the middle of all this chaos, a darker truth started to surface. Maybe Zegler didn't misstep. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe she tried to destroy the original narrative so she could rebuild it in her image. And in doing so, she lost everyone. Critics argued that her push for empowerment didn't come from a place of love or progress. It came from a desire to outshine tradition, to reshape Disney into a mirror of herself. But instead of earning applause, she earned rage. Meanwhile, Disney found itself stuck in a PR nightmare. Every attempt to spin the story just made things worse. Their vague statements? Useless. Their silence on the movie's sudden removal? Deafening. And all the while, Brett Cooper kept the spotlight right on Zegler. She went viral again for a brutal take. If Rachel Zegler thought she could insult the very story that gave her a career, maybe she deserves to lose it. That comment alone sent social media into a tailspin. Zegler's defenders rushed in, calling Brett bitter, jealous, a bully. But Cooper's fans clapped back even harder. They claimed Zegler had been bullying fans since day one by mocking their love for the original. It became a full-on war. Reddit threads, TikTok rants, YouTube breakdowns. People weren't just reviewing a movie, they were dissecting a meltdown. The debate boiled down to one brutal question. Was Rachel Zegler's downfall earned? Some said yes. They argued that she brought it on herself by alienating fans, disrespecting the story, and refusing to take responsibility. Others said she was a scapegoat, a young actress caught in the crossfire of corporate chaos and social media judgment. But one thing everyone agreed on, this was no ordinary flop. This was a public implosion. And at the center of it all was a woman who wanted to rewrite a fairy tale and ended up rewriting her own career. As for Brett Cooper, she walked away from the wreckage with her platform stronger than ever. Her commentary had hit a nerve. She'd exposed what so many fans had been afraid to say, that maybe, just maybe, not every classic needs fixing. And maybe not every star deserves the spotlight. So now here we are. The dust is settling, the theaters are quiet, the Snow White posters are gone. Rachel Zegler is no longer Disney's golden girl. And the rest of us, we're left watching, waiting, wondering, will she bounce back? Will more secrets spill out? Or is this the end of the fairy tale? One thing's for sure, this story won't disappear quietly, because when you mock a legend, mock your fans, and mock the story that gave you a crown, sometimes that crown crumbles right in your hands. And as the world watches what Rachel Zegler does next, one message echoes through the halls of Hollywood like a fairy tale warning: mock your legacy, and it will mock you back. And it will mock you back.